Hi, my name is Newell Davis with World Composting, and today we're going to take a look at our 14-gallon tote that has African Nightcrawlers in it. Now, I have had some issues, unfortunately, with the Nightcrawlers crawling out of the system, going underneath the lid, and getting onto my floor. I kind of did a short of that before. I am going to take the lid off now and probably put some bubble wrap on top. I think it's just too humid. The humidity has gone from, 0% outside essentially during winter to like 70% very quickly, and all of a sudden the worms, especially with the rain, are starting to try to wander around, which is what happens with a lot of worms. When it rains outside a lot and you get these heavy downpours, they'll start to sort of wander around your system. And I've noticed this for a long time. I thought we had a little bit more time with it being cold, and it kind of ramped up pretty quickly since we're only about 30 days into the system now. So with that, what we're going to do is we're going to just sort of dig around in the system. We'll add some food, maybe a little bit of water, since we're going to leave the lid open, but it's pretty moist in there and the worms are still moving around. There might be some that aren't moving as much simply because I have added some that fell into the floor, crawled around. They were still alive and I put them right back in the bin, hoping that they'll recover. But we'll just have to wait and see if they do. So with that, let's take a look at the system and see how it's doing. All right, here is our system. As I said, we are going to take this lid off, and I'm just going to flip this over, and you can see there's still a lot of moisture on here. The worms have been crawling up. Let's just see if I can get this in frame here. The outside part over here and going underneath. They've left castings and mud or dirt all over the system. And as you can see, it's pretty moist in here. Now, I am seeing actually a couple baby worms on here, too. Ooh, hold on a second here. Let me just grab my gloves. Got some stuff stuck to my gloves here. I see a baby worm on the side over here that I'm going to grab, or a couple of them. So, hold on here. Let me just get my gloves a little bit wet for them. Hold on. Look at this. Baby worm. Baby African Nightcrawlers. Now, African Nightcrawlers, and there's a whole bunch of them actually on this side. There's about 3 more, and there's a couple on the sides over here. So they're looking maybe for some moisture, but this system looks plenty moist. Now you can see there's a worm right here. This is one I think I added to the system not too long ago after it kind of fell onto the floor. So it's recovering still from the shock of probably being in such a dry environment. But we've been feeding on this side over here. So we're just going to take a look and see if the food is gone or not. It does not look like it. I am seeing, and this might be showing that we have too much moisture in here. I don't know if you can see that or not. It looks like there's some red mites in here, which means that there's too much moisture and we've got too much stuff that's not worm related going on. Oh, hold on, another baby worm. Look at this. So the African Nightcrawlers, they are liking this system and the food that's in it. It's just that they're not eating through it quick enough. I don't think we need to add more food or bedding maybe this time. I think we might just leave it as is. Maybe, I don't think it needs any moisture either. I think we're going to try to dry it out a little bit. But this system is looking very good. I've seen a lot of worms, especially on the sides. Although the only thing I don't like is the fact I was really hoping that they'd sort of kind of consume everything on this side so I could do a harvest, which doesn't seem to be happening here. Let's just dig in here a little bit. Whoop, you can see a really large one over here. Look at this. See how big these things can get? Actually, they can get a lot longer than this. This one is pretty small. They can go all the way across my hand here, like 8 to 10 inches. So they can get pretty big. But you can see right here, the food stuck together, it looks like maybe a little bit too much. Maybe that's the problem that we're having in here, is that the food is just sort of not breaking down as it should, and it's kind of clumping up. So I'll have to be more careful when I add food in the future, and you probably should do the same when you're adding food to your systems, making sure that you're not getting lots and lots of clumping in here. Now, I'm going to try to not add any cardboard to this for a while. Oh my gosh, hold on. Where would that one go? There's a couple large ones right here. Look at that. So they're really liking this system. There's another one right over here. Hopefully we're getting lots of, we saw babies, so we know we're getting cocoons. Another one over here. There's a big one though that I just saw dig down right over here somewhere. Lots of cardboard in here still. So there's lots of food for them to eat. There's lots of things for them to consume. I think it just might be a little bit too moist. And the more moisture is in these systems, the cooler it can run. Oh, look at this. Here we go. Here's a nice long one. Or longer, I think. So there's a lot of worms in here. They're really digging around. They're multiplying. Overall, I feel like this is the right size system really for beginners. Maybe a smaller system to start just to get used to it. But this is a good size system. I can move this around. I can pick this up. I can easily take off the cover. I'm hoping that we don't get any fruit flies in here or anything like that. We are bringing in more and more bananas, and we do tend to get fruit flies when we have those, but I'm not getting any bad smells either from it. Oh, you can see there's a lot of dry cardboard over here, so this is pretty dry. So it's when you really need that to, you really need them to work on that. And this feels a little bit dry too, but let's just kind of dig in here a little bit. Let's dig down in this center section here. Yeah, I mean, the system is looking good. I just wish that you know, they would sort of, we're gonna have to wait for them to break down all this material here before I can do maybe a side-to-side harvest, kind of put all this to one side and kind of get them to move over. But so far, this is looking good. Here's another one right here. Whew. That's another large one. And these guys are prolific eaters once they get going, by the way, too. So I'm hoping that they can really kind of chow down on this system. Now, with that, as I said, I have lost quite a few of these worms. Unfortunately, they've left the system, fell on the floor, and you know, they're not with us anymore. And I'll you know, unfortunately, that's part of what happens in any system. Yeah, I've had systems that are closed where I found worms by them, like my urban worm bags have, and sometimes I'll find worms by them, and I'm like, how do they get out of here? There's zippers and everything, and they really have to work their way through, but they do. They figure out a way, and you know, they want to roam, they're going to roam. So if you're new to this, you might have to deal with the same thing. If they want to roam, they're going to find a way to roam around. Now with that, I am going to add, I think, just a little bit of moisture to the top here, although this system is looking pretty good. Let me just grab my cup here, and this is, again, this is water from my fish tank. So just kind of a little bit on top there, maybe a little bit, just a little bit more. It'll run down and run out of the system if it needs to. I will say also on the bottom underneath, and actually let me pick this up and move it out of the way for a second. Underneath this, there are a lot of worms that actually crawled underneath the system, or they came out over the sides and ended up underneath. And when I looked under here, whoop, I fell over again. So you can see there's a lot of dead worms in here, unfortunately, but which can happen with these systems. Maybe I could have added some water in here, but I don't plan on doing that. That wasn't the purpose, to have them go down like that. Maybe in my next system, what I would do is I would actually add another tray on top of this, that the worms can kind of dig down into the tray below and then come back up, and have the what did I have down there? The cloth that's sort of blocking the bottom, and the burlap. That's what I was thinking of. So I've got burlap in the bottom. Maybe if I had another one of these on top, and really the holes just were lined up so that way the water could drain out, but the burlap is in the way, so that way the worms can't get through. And then you can always just have them dig down and kind of dry out the top. Now with that, I am going to leave the top off, but I'm not going to leave this completely unprotected. I do have here a piece of bubble wrap, and this is, I forget what it's called, but it's like their higher density or something, cushion bubble wrap, or heavy duty stuff. So this is what it is right here. When you're buying this stuff, and this is the first time I've had to buy more in, I don't know how long, I think 20 years. Look for deals. This was, I think, $6 for this massive roll at Home Depot. They happened to have a sale going on, or it was clearance or something, and it was really inexpensive comparatively. So highly recommend looking for deals for this stuff if you're buying anything for your systems. Again, this bin I purchased, this was a bin that was on a deal at the time, I think for $7. You know, so don't buy this stuff at full price if you don't have to. Look for deals. So with that, check out the video on how I built this system, and you can also build one yourself. And again, I do think during the winter, this lid will work a lot better, keeping in that moisture, which has been part of the problem during the winter when it's, you know, really dry out. But right now we've just got a lot of humidity that just poured into the area. And, you know, hopefully this will be good, and we'll be able to harvest this maybe in another couple weeks. Or months, maybe. Probably 2 months, if I had to guess, to be able to harvest this, depending on how the worms multiply. So with that, thank you for watching. Please check out my other videos, either how to build this, or the urban worm bag, or maybe if you're interested on getting a food cycler, look at that video as well. So thank you for watching.